Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of iTOOsday. We see we're already above 300 participants and we're expecting a whopping 1,000 people on today. Let's hope we get to that number. But excited for you to be here with us. I've got my stunning colleague with me, Candice Toprek. She will be co-presenting with me today. The Q&A is open, so the chat section doesn't work. So please use the Q&A to just, welcome, say how you guys are doing, where you're from. Do you have any burning questions already that you might have up front? Post those in the Q&A, give them to us. Today's topic should be an exciting one. We've got a well-renowned guest speaker in Garth, which we'll introduce shortly. So please, guys, just sit back, relax, ask your questions, give us a greeting, tell us where you're from, and we'll start in the next 2 to 3 minutes. Morning, Reggie. How are you today? How's it, Peter, Rion, Marika, Dina? Quite a few people coming on now. How are you all doing today? Anyone from the Cape, from KZN, outside of South Africa? Let us know where you're from. Glad they become addictive, but I also hope that they become very informative and are helpful to your daily lives. We've got Cape Town, Vanderbilt, Amanzimtoti, yes, Derbs, windy today. Oh, we've got over 400 people on the call. Looking good. Rugersdorp. How's it, Patricia from Sanson Ilovo?
Windy Belito.
Belito, I love it. Centurion. Cool. We'll give it 1 more minute, guys, and then we'll officially start the session. We're building up a nice head of steam, reaching that 500 plus mark. And we are 2 minutes past 10, so we'll kick off just now. We've got the Northwest. Big Bay, one of my favorite places in Cape Town. Welcome, David. If you can't hear us, it might be an issue on your side, maybe log out and log back in. But from what we can tell, our sound is good, quality picture is good. But if there are issues on your side, please maybe just reset yourself and you should come right. We are unfortunately not in the office, or fortunately, we are on location, myself and Candice. So we are in a nice location out in Centurion. So we are not in our usual spaces, but I think it's time for us to get going. So once again, welcome to another episode of iTOOsday. It is Cyber Awareness Month, and today we will be talking all things on the crime and hijack side. My name is Lwando Cwane. I am the lead on the commercial cyber portfolio. I've got with me Candice Toprek, who is the lead on the personalized cyber portfolio, as you might know, my solution. And we've got our guest speaker, Garth. Candice, do you want to introduce our speaker for us?
Awesome. Thank you so much, and thank you for your time, everyone. So it is our great pleasure to introduce a personal friend and a confidant in iTOO of Garth de Klerk, who is the CEO of the Insurance Crime Bureau in South Africa. Garth is born and bred in South Africa and is passionate about the population of South Africa, looking to make it a better place for all. He has 30 years plus experience in non-life insurance and has in the past worked in several international insurance markets as well as Africa. Garth is passionate about people and networking and welcomes any opportunity to connect as a common cause for community. Garth, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And over to you to share some insights with us.
Thank you very much, Candice, and welcome to everybody that's joined us this morning. I've had 1 or 2 SMSs from your audience, so it appears that some people out there do actually know me. Just as an aside, it's always nice when somebody's so polite in the introduction. It means that I'm obviously doing this for free and they have to be nice that I come back the next time. But I genuinely appreciate the opportunity, Lwando and Candice, to come and share this message with your community. So I'm going to go off camera because nobody wants to look and hear my voice the whole time. And I'm going to quickly share my slide presentation. Candice or Lwando, if you can just give me a confirmation that you can see the presentation in its presentation format.
Yes, 100%.
Awesome.
Clear and beautiful. Well done.
Awesome. So very briefly, to those of you who do not know the Insurance Crime Bureau, we're a non-profit organization. We were created in 2008. The idea behind the organization is to compile intelligence with the view of combating syndicated insurance fraud and the related crimes in South Africa. I'm not going to go into everything that we do, but we do basically everything when it comes to fraud and crime in South Africa, from simple claims fraud to hijacking to kidnappings. We even get involved in human trafficking. We're involved a lot within money laundering. We get involved in terrorism funding. We work with the FICA. We work with the FSB, or the FISCA these days, as they call themselves. We work with parties like Interpol, Secret Service, etc. The whole idea is to compile information and intelligence to combat crime within South Africa. So it's a fantastic job. It's a really meaningful job. We really believe in making a difference. A couple of my colleagues on the call this morning that used to work with me in the industry, they know that I'm an absolute capitalist. We cannot do things unless we are going to make a difference. And we believe that as a community, if we work together, we can do that. However, that's not what we hear about today. Today, we're talking about iTOOsday. I love that name, by the way. Whoever came up with iTOOsday deserves a bonus and probably an increase. Hacked and hijacked. So we want to talk about the increase in abuse of your digital identity. So I'm going to present for about 20 minutes. Don't worry, it's not going to be death by PowerPoint. And then we're going to go into a panel presentation or panel discussion with Lwando, Candice, and myself, and really would appreciate your questions and comments around your own personal experiences around abuse of your digital identity. So very briefly, what we're going to talk about is digital identities, the growing exposure and abuse of your digital identities. What are the challenges? And then what are the solutions? And just in brackets there, just to keep it as no secret, there's no magic solution when it comes to protecting your digital identity. And we'll talk through what the protection method is. So ladies and gentlemen, simply, what is your digital identity? Let's just remind ourselves, it's data that is stored on a computer system or other electronic type of system relating to an individual, an organization, an application, or a device. So for example, my cell phone has got a fingerprint. It's got what you would simply call an IMEI number. It's got a series of other fingerprints as well. But my cell phone is a device that can be directly linked to me. It is a digital footprint. It's a digital fingerprint. You can trace me via my cell phone. Digital identities are used as a secure and convenient way to verify who you are online, to access various services. Let's think about it. It's your bank. It's your insurance policy. It's when you go park at Sandton or Mall of Africa or whatever, you can drive in there, the cameras can recognize your number plate, it opens the boom for you, you drive in, you shop for 5 hours, or if you can, just for 10 hours, you drive out at the end of the day and it just automatically charges your credit card. Those are digital identities. Those are systems. But once you are in Mall of Africa, for example, the mall is continuously tracking you via your cell phone, because I bet you've got your Bluetooth and your Wi-Fi on your cell phone. It is tracking you. If it was tracking me, it would see that I would go to all the food shops and I'd be eating lunch for 3 hours. If you were tracking somebody with a bigger wallet, it would be tracking you via Louis Vuitton and all the polo shops, etc., on the upper level of Mall of Africa. It can track your foot traffic. Why is it doing that? Because it is developing trends for the owner of Mall of Africa, and it is commercializing you as an individual. You have become a product. They want to know why you're there. They want to know where you go while you are there. They want to know the high traffic footprints. Where is it the best place to put a new coffee shop? Where is it the best place to put a new video game store? Where is an anchor shop like a Vodacom or an Edcon or whatever going to ask for their footprint or their shop to be placed so that they get the most foot traffic past their places? That's what they are looking for, and that's what they're using your digital identity for. Let's talk about examples of digital identity. And I mean, these are simplistic. I'm really going through this so that you focus on how easy this is. So personal information, your date of birth, your ID number, your addresses, usernames and passwords. You know, my username is Garth DK. My password is 1234. If I continue to recycle the same username and password, the likelihood of me being hacked and hijacked is higher and higher. Email addresses, browsing activity, online transactions. Where do you buy goods from? Is it Amazon? Is it Takealot? Is it Shein? Is it, what's that other one? Tumo or whatever. Where are you spending your money? Your IP addresses. You've got probably a laptop. You've more than likely, or you definitely got a cell phone. You've more than likely got a tablet of some type, whether it's a Surface or an iPad or a Galaxy Tab or a YE Tab. You've got numerous IP addresses linked to your digital identity. Your biometrics. You go into a bank, you give them a fingerprint so that you can open a new card. Where do you think these pieces of individual information are stored? Your location. I'm a big Google Maps user. I take photographs, I upload photographs. I'm always using Google Maps to manage my traffic. Even if I go to the bathroom, I'll put Google Maps on to make sure that there's no traffic between me and the bathroom. They are continuously tracking your location to put out things like traffic patterns, traffic issues where, you know, there's an accident on the N1. If you see that red line on the N1, that's not black magic. Those are organizations that are tracking your vehicle or tracking your cell phone, saying that suddenly there's 500 people on the N1 between Beyersnordie and William Nicol that are stationary. That's how they do it. That's how they track traffic patterns, etc. Security tokens. I don't know if any of you read, but Fortinet, which is one of the big security token providers in the world, it's one that we in fact use, was hacked the other day. The people that provide security tokens that allow you to log on to your VPN or other secured networks, they were hacked. Digital certificates. And then my last but favorite one is social media profiles. Let me tell you that I'm part of a kidnapping forum. ICB contributes to a kidnapping forum. We traced this week a young lady that was approached, let's say, groomed, let's call it, via her social media profile. She was approached via social media. She was groomed by these individuals. She gave away where she would be on a certain evening, and she was taken. It sounds like a movie. It's the truth. We give away so much of our own information. We show, look, we're having coffee, we're having tea, we're on honeymoon, we're in the Maldives, we're in Cape Town, wherever, via our social media profiles. Every single point of contact with the internet leaves a fingerprint. And if somebody who has nefarious intentions is looking for those links, looking for those fingerprints, they can easily find things about you. All of your personal information, your date of birth, ID number, addresses are easily obtainable. My favorite example of that is every single time I want to go into a building, and I visit a lot of the big insurance companies, a lot of the big banks in South Africa on a regular basis because of my job. What I have to do, I have to write down my name, my ID number, my cell phone number, my email address, everything. It's on a flippant piece of paper available in their reception. Or they get a little bit more sophisticated and they take a photograph of you, you hand over your ID, they scan your ID. That information is stored somewhere, and it is possible to hack it. Some what I call recent fake facts. We deal a lot with Meta. Now, Meta is the group that owns Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. They closed down over 1 billion fake individual accounts over a period of 12 months. Let me repeat that. 1 billion individual fake accounts in a period of 12 months. They, in a period of 6 months, closed down 76,000 fake online shops on Facebook and Instagram that were designed to sell you products, sell you the dream. And all they were really doing is they were taking your details. They stole details from over 800,000 people in Europe and the USA. 76,000 online fake shops, stolen 800,000 identities. And they are going to abuse those identities. They're going to commit impersonation. They're going to commit identity fraud. They're going to open bank accounts, etc., etc. Digital channels now account for 52% of overall fraud losses. That's for the first time surpassed what physical fraud costs the world. That's according to LexisNexis, and that was their 2023 study. So digital identity fraud and digital fraud now surpasses fraud and physical fraud or crimes related to fraud for the first time. Billions of rands are lost to digital fraud annually. Not only billions of rands are lost to it, but we spend other billions of rands fighting fraud. I read a very interesting article yesterday. One of the big banks, the Blue Bank, came out into the press yesterday and said, we spend R1 billion a year on our cyber crime fighting team. R1 billion a year to fight cybercrime. APSA said they saw a 400% increase in attempted cyber attacks. Just recently in South Africa, a different forum that we involved in was involved in the arrest of 37 individuals where there were global phishing attempts sending out text emails containing links in order to perpetrate phishing, vishing, smishing from South Africa. Last week, the same team with the Secret Service arrested a guy in Gordons Bay, part of a new crowd that has now surfaced in South Africa, based out of Nigeria, but they're setting up their head offices in South Africa because it's nice. And, Gordons Bay is a very nice person. A lot of cyber crime type of people around the coast because they like to watch the sea while they romance scam you. It is a really, really fast growing type of fraud. 2023 was the worst year yet for occurrences of data breaches. Cast your mind back in the last couple of months. How many times have you heard companies that have been breached, including government organizations, including the Department of Justice, including SAPS, including the SANDF, including guys like Checkers, and a couple of the banks had issues, TransUnion had an issue, Experian had an issue, even the Department of Home Affairs was apparently breached. We saw a record total of compromises, 78% up from 2022, which was already 72% up from the previous year. Your identity is out there. What's keeping you safe at the moment is your identity is one of hundreds of millions of identities that have been compromised. And the question is, will they get to yours? But it is out there. Your ID number, your cell phone number, your house address, etc. It is all out there. So what are forms of digital identity abuse? And ladies and gents, there's nothing new here. You know, when Candice asked me to talk about this, she said, you know, tell me what you're experiencing, what you see. And Candice and I have got a very open relationship. And I said, it's the same old stuff. It's still the phishing. It's still the man in the middle. Business email compromise, BEC attacks, is still the same old methodology. Password-related attacks, brute force, spraying or stuffing of passwords. They're using the same technology that they were using 5, 10 years ago. You know why? Because it works. People are suckers. A very good colleague of mine phoned me in a panic the other day. They were involved in a big transaction involving properties. They bought and sold a property. They got a transfer from their attorney of the proceeds of the property that they'd sold. They then got a second letter from the attorney saying, oh, we made a big stuff up. Please, will you put this money back into a trust account because we weren't supposed to send it to you yet. It hasn't cleared through the FIC, and they gave all this stuff. Educated individual involved in the financial services sector sent the money back. It was an email compromise scheme. They almost lost their money. Fortunately, we were able to get hold of the receiving bank and freeze the cash in the recipient bank account. It happens, it works. Vishing, phishing, smishing, it works. One of my all-time favorite is Facebook. How many of you, and sit there and put your hands up or hang your head in shame, on Facebook play games online? Or what am I going to look like when I'm 70? And you go in there and it does a transition of your face, and then you have to log on to get the result. You do a quiz. What's my perfect match? What does my perfect husband, girlfriend, boyfriend, or whatever look like? And you go through this little quiz, a little survey, or you play a little game, and then it says, to receive the results, please log on here, or whatever. And guess what? They are stealing your identity. Then the next thing you see is somebody will come on and say, oh, please don't interact with my profile. I have been hacked. No, you haven't been hacked. You've been cloned. They've taken your identity. They've been watching your identity. They now clone who you are, and they start interacting with your family or your friends. If they're really sophisticated, they even apply to have your original account blocked so that you cannot warn your friends or family. They report you as being the fake. And now they start approaching people and saying, hey, Garth, I'm going through a really tough time. I'm embarrassed to admit this, but would you mind giving me a loan? Short-term loan, $5,000, $2,000, $500, don't care. They use people's, let's call it inverted commas, better sides or softer sides to create this man in the middle type of attack because they've stolen your identity. What are the challenges? People are nameless. There's evolving technology. Shocker, criminals have absolutely no ethics. There's not enough cooperation in business, although we are seeing increased levels of cooperation. There's not sharing of experiences. Businesses are embarrassed to say, oh, I was hacked, I was attacked. They broke through, they compromised the database. One of our employees clicked on the wrong link, etc. The law is prescriptive. This morning, I was dealing with Papaya. One of our members said, oh, I can't share information with you because of Papaya. What a load of nonsense. Papaya actually encourages you. It makes it your responsibility to share information where it is in public interest and it involves criminal activities. It becomes your responsibility. Let's say as a broker, as a third party, if you see fraud, it's your legal responsibility to report it. You have the full right to report the person's name, ID number, address, cell phone number, etc., because they are committing crime. Then info fatigue. I'm talking quickly because I've only got about 3 minutes left. And it represents this whole info fatigue because there's so much information to take on in a short period of time. And we hear this all the time. We hear people saying all the time, you are going to be hacked, you are going to be phished, you are going to be vished, you are going to be SMS'd. People are going to try and steal your identity. We don't listen anymore. Law enforcement and jurisdiction, again, working with this international team, which is focused and based in South Africa with Secret Service, with Interpol, with local law enforcement, the Hawks and the MPA, etc. It is incredible where jurisdiction falls. And often they will arrest somebody in South Africa and uplift them to the US because we know that the prosecution might be more effective. And then the cost of humans and technology. We all know that humans and technology are both very expensive. Some solutions, no shocker, collaboration and awareness. More education, more sessions like iTOOsdays. Talk about it, share experiences. Don't be embarrassed to say, geez, I almost clicked on a link the other day. This is what it looked like. Password management. Don't use 1, 2, 3, 4. My password is I like picnics that include cheese. I'm not joking. I use sentences as passwords. I then put a couple numbers on the back of it. I say I like walking my dog. It doesn't take long to type it in, and it's a hell of a lot more secure than my mother's maiden name. Multi-factor authentication, it's good. It's not the be-all and end-all. It can be hacked, but it's a good step. Privileged access for organizations. The right people should have access to the right systems. As CEO of the organization, I don't have access to salaries. I don't have access to accounting. You know why? Because I don't need it. I shouldn't have it. Then one of my favorite topics is justice for victims. In the UK, they did a study over the age of 60. There was an increase in suicide of fraud victims because people were too embarrassed to admit that they'd lost their life savings. They had nothing left, nothing to live for, so they committed suicide. In the ages 15 to 21, we are seeing a lot of youngsters that are being scammed on TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, etc., where they are being catfished. I've had 2 recent incidences of young individual guys that have been approached by a beautiful girl online. It's actually some Nigerian oak sitting in Gordon's Bay, most likely, and he's pretending to be a young, attractive lady, and they're coming on and saying all types of things in order to get photographs, they compromise, and then they start blackmailing and scamming the individuals. Don't ignore these realities. So with that, thank you very much. I hope that some of those points would have made a difference. Our message as the Insurance Crime Bureau is, ladies and gentlemen, just think. Every single one of you is intelligent. You are mature. You must just slow down and think. When you get an email, is it the right email address? Is it the right language? Is it the right verbiage? How did they know the information that they've got? Think about your online transactions. Candice loves to say, if you didn't enter a competition, you didn't win that competition. I'll never forget that advice from her. If you get an email that you should not have gotten, it's more than likely a scam. Use your experience to think, and please share those experiences. Thank you very much.
Garth, you couldn't have said it any better. If it's too good to be true, then it must be. So I think, guys, there's some valuable insights from Garth. If there are any questions in the chat, please put them in there. We will go through a few that we have already prepped just to expand on the discussion. And I think, Garth, thanks again for that. I think you raised some good points. You know, how easy it is really to get scammed, to get cloned. You know, how safe are we around our use of passwords? I think I asked a question in the chat. You know, when last did you guys actually change your passwords for your social media, for your Facebook accounts, for anything that you do in your personal life? Forget about what you do in the corporate space. Because corporates now are forcing that regular 30-day to 2-month changes, whatever the case might be. But what are you doing for your personal side? And Garth, my first question to you is really around business email compromise. You touched on a key point that we're seeing a lot in the corporate side of things. So as a business, and as I too, we've been seeing a huge number of notifications around business email compromises. It has been the number one driver of claims over the last 18 to 24 months. And we're continuing to see that trend. And with all the awareness that we're doing, all the information that's out there, you would think that more and more people are really understand the risk and can, protect themselves a bit more around this risk. What would you say is contributing to the fact that this risk is still prevalent, and in fact still increasing?
I think it's because the one consistent in this type of compromise is the human. And we do not spend enough time mandating, educating, and talking to the humans. We saw an example within the industry very recently where the compromise was around lower level employees that hadn't been properly educated. They had been employed, they had been brought in, they had been taught how to do their job, but they hadn't been told all of the evils of their job.
Yeah.
They hadn't been properly mandated. And I think that's the consistent. It's the same old stuff. The weakest link is the human, and the badly educated human is a big risk.
Fantastic saying. The weakest link, we always say this, is the human. When an attacker looks at a business, they think to themselves, what's easier to do? Do I try and break the systems that have been built, the firewalls, the endpoint protections, all the layers of security that's been built in? Or do I say, oh, there's a couple of humans who are freely posting information on their social media. Can I do a spear phishing attack against them and get them to give me their credentials in order to get in? That's really one of those key things that we like to drive, that the humans continue to be the weakest link. Training is working. However, you need to continue training yourself, upskilling yourself, and knowing what are the risks. And unfortunately, AI does play a big role in making that a little bit harder for us. We're seeing things like deep fakes, as the sophistication around the types of attacks are happening, and so on. But let's move on. Let's move on with our question. Over to you, Candice.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you so much, Garth. That was amazing. So my question is about collaborative efforts and what the role is that the Insurance Crime Bureau plays in combating cybercrime. And how do you actually collaborate with law enforcement organizations to address these threats?
Sure. No, thanks for that, Candice. And there's a number of entry points that we've got into that collaboration. Firstly, it's examples like this, talking, sharing experiences, talking about the topic, etc. When we deal with law enforcement on issues like this, it's more pointed, specific targets. Like I said, we're part of a forum that includes a number of law enforcement bodies, like the legislators, like the Secret Service, Interpol, the Hawks, where we are targeting specific groups that are perpetrating mass cyber events. So like those 37 arrests where these individuals were responsible for sending SMSs, phishing emails, etc., we get involved in assisting with intelligence. And ICB plays a very small role in that. To be fair, the law enforcement guys do fantastic work in tracking and arresting these individuals. But we play a facilitation role in that.
Awesome. There's a question in the chat I'd like to pose to you, Garth. The question goes: if you have made a wrong decision and a phish, and you paid into the wrong bank account, is there a timeline that individual has in order to notify the banks to freeze those accounts? Do you have any insight around that?
Yeah, there's no timeline. Just do it as quickly as you know. I mean, the minute you find out that your email address or your bank account might have been compromised, freeze the accounts. And ladies and gentlemen, if your cell phone gets stolen, freeze your accounts. Change your passwords, freeze your accounts. Walk into your nearest branch and get it done online as soon. Don't wait to replace your cell phone. Go into a branch and get it done. I often hear people say to me, but Garth, you can't crack an iPhone or you can't crack an Android, etc. You can crack an Android within minutes. An iPhone takes 10.
Yeah.
Okay, you can crack an Android, you can crack an iPhone. We have got practical examples of where iPhones have been cracked and then they access people's bank account via the phone. So from the time that your phone is stolen, you've got minutes. People are not stealing your phone because they want an iPhone. It's a lousy piece of kit. They want your access to your bank accounts. They are going to sell your iPhone for $500 or whatever it might be, but they're after your information as well. So please, act as quickly as you can.
Yeah, I mean, in our world, data is king, right? So
Yeah.
if I'm
100%.
stealing your laptop, your phone, your tablet, yes, I can sell those assets. But if I understand who you are, what you have on there, I could make a lot more out of that data that's sitting on there. I think, we speak about the human, we speak about the tech, we speak about the weakest link. And maybe Candice, from your side in terms of, the personal side of things and how these attacks unfold, what would you say is sort of the number one cause at the moment of personal losses when it comes to cyber attacks?
Excellent question. And there's a few points that Garth touched on that would be covered by my solution policy. But the number one threat that we're seeing right now would be under the blanket definition of a theft of funds. So when we look at the my solution policy, which is a policy that you purchase as an individual to cover yourself and your family, that covers somebody hacking your bank account, spoofing an email or a phishing attempt, and also express kidnapping. So express kidnapping differs from kidnap for ransom in that kidnap for ransom, you take and you held against your will, and a massive ransom is demanded in exchange for your release. That takes quite careful planning, looking into the family to see what kind of funds they have, whether they are going to have to crowdsource that 2 million rand to release the family member, do they have a kidnap ransom policy, etc. Versus something that we're seeing, which is the latest trend now, which is express kidnapping. And that is when you are taken against your will and you are forced to withdraw funds from your account or transfer money out of your account until your funds are depleted. So let's say that your salary is 20,000 Rand, your ATM withdrawal limit is 5,000 Rand, you've already withdrawn 10,000 Rand for the month. You will be forced to withdraw 5,000 Rand today and then at midnight again. And then maybe your really fancy watch is taken or your engagement ring because it's quite pretty, and then they release you. So that's what we're seeing. And historically, when we looked at some SAP statistics, there were 800 reported cases of kidnapping in totality in 2021. That increased to 1,143 in a month in 2022 and 16,000 reported cases last year. And exactly like Garth said, just because that's what is reported doesn't mean that that's the actual figure. We have to assume that it's so much higher. But a my solution policy does cover all of these sorts of things. It covers theft of funds, which is hacking of your bank account, whether you're an innocent victim of phishing or email spoofing. It covers express kidnapping. So what I'll do is I'll just paste in the Q&A section our playbook, which details the full policy. But if you'd like information about that, feel free to reach out to me. So that's what we are seeing. Lwando, if I may ask you a question.
Yes.
What are the services that you, iTOO, offer to individuals to help them identify? Because there is this definite misconception that no one's going to hack me. I'm a small organization, rather hack Standard Bank. That's where the money is. So what are the services? And number one, is that a true statement? And number two, what are the services that you can help a broker with to identify, regardless of the company's size and what industry they're in, that there is a cybercrime exposure?
Right. I mean, that's one of the age-old questions that we get. I'm too small of a business to be a target. And that can never be true, because think about how we operate. Think about what you as a business have in your small business. You've got some sort of data. You understand clients. You might be collecting small pieces of information. You're probably paying suppliers in some respects. All of those avenues are a gateway for attackers to be looking at you as a potential revenue source. You may not be a specific target, and this is where the differentiation comes between a large corporate and a small business, is that large corporates could be a specific target, like, for example, a bank. A bank we know has large revenues, large customer databases, and probably a massive payout if you can get it right. However, the low-hanging fruit is the small business. Why? They don't have the right security, they don't have the right resources, they don't have the right support when it comes down to actually surviving and thriving post a cyber incident. So these are some of the things that you need to consider to your clients when they tell you, I'm too small, I'm in a manufacturing business, or I'm not in a data-rich business. You have some sort of exposure as long as you're using the internet or some sort of connected devices within your environment. And as I2, some of the things that we're offering as part of purchasing the corporate policy, we do have some risk management solutions that we can share with you that will assist in helping to identify and potentially show your clients that they may have weaknesses. Two of those risk management tools would be, the first one would be a Cyber Plus assessment. So this would be an actual in-depth assessment of your environment, going through some of the top 10 key indicators of a breach that have been found by some of the leading forensic providers within our country. They will go through the client to show them, what the environment looks like, where they could have those gaps, and then assist them in terms of consulting on how to close those gaps. So that could be a really massive value add for your clients. Another free tool that we can offer for every single client, we can do what is called an external posture scan. So using the client's domains, for example, iTOOsday, we can put that into a tool which will scan the internet for any linked vulnerabilities to that domain. So much like a criminal might do scoping your house to see if your fences are locked, or if you have high walls, if you have electric fence, whatever the case might be, before robbing your house. This will be the same thing from an internet basis to show you there may be some things that can be seen and freely seen, which means if I can see it, so can the third-party attackers. So these are really some tools that we're happy to share with you. Get in contact with us. These are quite free. Especially the vulnerability assessment. The other one, the Cyber Plus one, is more for when you are purchasing a policy. It's a value add for all new business purchases on the corporate side of things.
Excellent, excellent. Garth, is there something you wanted to say here?
Yeah, Candice, if I may, I think the points that you and Lwando make are very, very valid points, and I don't want to so much touch on them, but I'm seeing some very interesting questions coming up in the chat. And there's three in particular that I'd like to address, and then we can go back and discuss it. But firstly, to the audience, it's so fantastic to see such an active chat line. We don't normally get this type of stuff. The first one I want to talk about is David Stenberg. And thanks for the question, David. He says he would love to get an understanding of how multi-factor authentication can be hacked. Very briefly, David, it's not that it can be hacked, it can be compromised. There's a slight difference. So if I get hold of your cell phone, or if I only duplicate your cell phone number, your SIM card, and you're trying to log on to your Microsoft account and your multi-factor number goes to that cell phone number, I've got it as well. If I'm really not that successful, it's even simpler. I'll pull out a gun, put it against your head, and tell you to log on to whatever I want you to log on to. So MFA is a great tool. I'm not against MFA. I'm not against Fortinet. We still use tokens to access our virtual networks and that. But it is not the be-all and end-all. It's really clever humans. So that's the first thing. So it's not necessary that it can be hacked or hijacked, but it can be compromised. Then an anonymous user, and this goes back to something else that we do as the ICB, asked about, why don't insurance companies place a person at the borders and check vehicles leaving South Africa with a comprehensive list of stolen vehicles, and they would seriously have recoveries? That's not really cybercrime related, but it is something that we do. So I just want to briefly comment. We do exactly that. We have operations at borders virtually every weekend. And regularly every single month. Unfortunately, we don't have enough human resources to deploy at every border every day. The problem that we have is that if your vehicle that was stolen, let's say it's a white Fortuner, or in my case, a white Prado that I drive, Alpha Bravo Charlie 123, the criminals are not going to drive it across the border with Alpha Bravo Charlie 123. They're going to change the identity of that vehicle to a vehicle that has previously been scrapped, and it's now going to be Foxtrot Betty Tango 678. It's going to be a white Prado, different VIN, different engine, different reg number, different register number, with the exact papers that you need to take that vehicle across the border, and you have to be an expert in spotting that vehicle. So we put resources up at borders virtually every weekend, at least once or twice a month. And as often as we can, but you can't just sit there and look for Alpha Bravo Charlie, which is on the stolen list. You have to examine high-value vehicles and high-target vehicles. And then the last one, Candice, before going back to the discussion, there was a question from Neil Sanford. If FNB is spending 1 billion a year on cyber protection, sorry, it wasn't FNB, it was Standard Bank. It was in the news. Is there an argument for going back to cost/security to go back to snail mail versus courier? So, we're spending so much money. Why don't we go back to, a good old system? And it's a great question. There's some value in that. But one of the most hijacked vehicles on the road at the moment, just behind a Checkers 6060 driver or those fat boy motorbikes that they drive, are couriers. And they're after your credit card, your debit card, and your banking emails, your banking correspondence. Why? Because there's no such thing as a post office in South Africa. So you have to use couriers. They even know what plain vehicle couriers look like. So courier companies these days don't always brand their vehicles. They are one of the most hijacked vehicles in South Africa. So if we look at cyber, we also need to take a look at physical risk and say, what is the risk of my credit card, my debit card, or my transactional information being physically intercepted by these syndicates? So it's fascinating because cyber is not always just the technology side of things. Candice talks about express kidnappings, and to break down your numbers, Candice, you're correct. There's 40 kidnappings per day in South Africa. It's grown incredibly quickly, 40 kidnappings per day. This task team that we part of probably deal with 10 a week.
Yeah.
And they're not all 5 million rand, as you said. It's 100,000, 200,000. It's quick express kidnappings. So we have to be as reactive and proactive as the criminal syndicates are in South Africa.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that I'd like to ask Lwando a question on, is how threats have evolved. So when we started My Solution, we didn't even cover something like express kidnapping because it wasn't a concern in South Africa. Where now the policy not only covers it, but it's our #1 claims area. It's just frightening how many people this happens to, and it's not only just to adults. So statistically, 85% of the kidnappings, the 16,000 kidnappings that did happen, 85% of them were women and children. So it's not necessarily the businessman that does get kidnapped. That's more kidnap for ransom situation. But in an express kidnapping situation, it is when you are sending your child who's at boarding school in a ride share to go meet his friends at the nearest shopping center to go to Milky Lane. That's when they're taken. So we really have to evolve our policies with the crimes. And my question for Lwando is, as these threats do evolve, we know that business email compromise is something that's quite huge right now. But how has iTOO cyber policy kept up with these new risks?
Yeah, thanks, Candice. I mean, from a corporate perspective, we can maybe go back a little back in time. It was really, I'm hacking your business, I'm infiltrating malware, and then I'm asking for a ransom payment. As security around the actual hacking has improved, and as the value of our data has also improved, the next step is to exfiltrate that data. So now you're seeing the case where I get into your organization through a phishing scam, I steal some vital data, I might launch a malware attack within that business, but then I will send you an extortion demand to either one, unlock your systems from the malware, or two, to not sell that data that I've stolen onto third parties. This is the huge ransom side of things. So ransom has been a big prevalence from a severity side of things when it comes to the losses. But over and above that, we're seeing a lot of fraud payments coming in. My supplier's bank details have been changed, or my details have been changed before I paid out to my third party. That's the whole theft of funds realm with alongside the BEC. So as we mentioned earlier on, BEC is the #1 driver of claims, and the main reason of that is because they are trying to get that fraudulent payment made. Now, what we have done on the policy is that we have included things such as theft of funds cover, and have expanded that to cover 2 scenarios. The first scenario will be where you, as the insured, your network is compromised, for example, get into your finance system, they add duplicate suppliers, or they add fake employees, and when you do your payroll, you pay out to those fake suppliers, to those fake employees, and then that money is unrecoverable. We'll help you to reimburse you for those costs. The second one, which is probably the most common, is when you receiving an invoice, and in between you receiving that invoice, your supplier is probably compromised. The details of that invoice has been changed. You pay it in good faith, and now the money is unrecoverable, and there is still a liability potentially there. The policy now extends to those scenarios as well. So we are trying to move and trying to bring cover. The biggest thing for me is awareness. Are you aware on this risk? What are you doing around your supply chain management? Are you educating them around those same risks that you're doing for your own businesses, so that between the two of you, your value chain, the whole value chain is a lot safer? Because the easiest way to actually save money is to be aware of the risk and stop it from happening outright. However, should you fall, victim to the cyber attacks, following some level of verification, our policies are ready to cover you in those instances. So that's really, where we're trying to do, and we're adding other things that are cool there from the risk management side of things. We're looking at physical damages for certain other industries. Garth, you spoke about the courier side of things, the logistics, the transporter. Why would they be after those documents or those papers? And what you may not know from a cyber policy, that it's not just digital data that triggers the policy, is also physical data. So if your information is sitting in physical format, whether it's on a courier box or it's on a courier sheet or whatever the case might be, that would constitute a data breach, which would trigger the policy. And under the laws of POPI and all of the other beautiful things, the policy would then respond to give you guidance from a legal perspective, how that will help you in terms of your reporting to the regulator, how to prevent getting a fine from the regulator, as well as protecting those individuals that may have been compromised from their details being used for third-party attacks down the line. So we have the credit identity theft monitoring services, we have dark web monitoring services to see where is the data popping up on the dark web potentially, and hopefully preventing it from being used in malicious ways. There's quite a varied way where the policy can really respond, over and above just the theft of funds side of things. There's a lot more that you get out of corporate policy. And I think just to remember, I think we're getting to the end of our session.
Yeah. If I may ask a question to Garth from Andre. Sorry, I just can't type fast enough to get to these questions. What is the MO of kidnapping? How has this changed? Where, who, how does it happen? Can you give us some info on that? I know in the research that I did, because I just did a TV interview last week, that 85% of kidnapping victims is the wife or the child of a businessman. The businessman's no longer the prime target, but that obviously does happen. So in your experience, which is far more extensive, can you tell us what is the MO, where, how, who, what happens?
Thanks, Candice. Yeah, let me answer that, and then one or two other closing comments, if I may. So you're 100% correct. 85% is not the businessman, because these guys are clever. If you kidnap me, my wife doesn't have access to the bank accounts. Guys, don't kidnap me, kidnap my wife. Just say, okay, because I can get the money. All right. If you kidnap my wife and you ask for 2 million rand, you're not going to get it. I don't have 2 million rand easily accessible. You'd have to put up with her for a month or two, and you don't want to do that. So if you're looking to kidnap, you're looking to take the wife or the child, and you ask for a respectable amount of money, 50, 100, 200,000 rand, because it's quick and easy. So people have realized kidnap the businessman is now a waste of time. Go after a loved one, keep the money flow open, and make sure that the money can flow. These guys are clever, they're sophisticated. So you're 100% right. The MO started off the businessman because there was insurance. Now they're saying, well, we don't want insurance to kick out, and insurance kicks out, there's cops involved and there's investigators involved. We go after a kid, we go after the wife, and it's a much quicker flow. There's a question in the chat, if I may. Are you seeing an improvement from Nicole Kern? Are you seeing an improvement in terms of reducing these criminal activities? And sadly, no. We are arresting and being involved in murder for money, hijacking schemes, blue light gangs, etc. We are arresting people all day, every day, but we don't see it curtailing because of the environment that we are in the world. It's not only in South Africa. Tough economic times. People are suffering. People are looking for a way out. So we definitely see we making a difference. We're taking people off the street. Yesterday or the day before yesterday, there was a police sergeant that was arrested again, very similar to Rosemary Ndlovu. We were involved in it. She's allegedly responsible for over 6 deaths, and there's more to come. And then my last comment, if I may close on this, Candice, is that when people find themselves being compromised by a cyber attack, one of the things that I've really learned in my experience is the first thing the CEO or the executive of that company should do is keep quiet. Investigate it, employ experts like yourselves or like similar people that can control the leak, can control the exposure. Don't go out and say things until you know what you're saying. And I cannot express that enough. I've seen the difference where big CEOs feel they have to say something. Just keep quiet until you know what you're going to say, because if you say something that's wrong, 2 days' time, you're going to have egg on your face when you're telling the rest of the story. So keep quiet, employ experts, deal with the likes of iTOO. They will put you in touch with the experts. I really believe in this type of interaction and collaboration and product, because it assists companies to recover from something that can really take them down. So that's my closing comments is think, act slowly, employ people that know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, great insight there, Garth. And I think just to add on that last point around the CEOs and saying nothing and not contributing to exacerbating the scenario, I think, with the commercial policy, we have that PR element, that crisis communication element, which you touched on. And that is really there to guide you in terms of what do you say, how to say it, when to say it, and to who to say, so that you can manage your reputation risk. And that's a large part of people don't even think about. Think about your money, you think about your data, you forget about your reputation. If I don't have trust in your business, guess where I'm going with my business? I'm going somewhere else.
Exactly. It's very important.
And you will lose that business. So we have these tools, we have these services, we have these experts on our side just to help you along there. And I think from my side, thanks for the discussion, Garth, and thanks for the audience for the questions. Candice, is there anything you would like to share?
I think at the end of the day, we need to remember that insurance, when we're looking at corporate cyber or my solution policy, it's an incident response policy. So after the incident has occurred, you've got no idea where to go, who to turn to, how to deal with the situation. Leave it up to the experts to help you with that so that you don't have to worry about that. Having a cyber incident, whether it's in your personal capacity or as a business, really can wreak havoc on your mental health. The amount of suicides that we have seen, that we've heard of about businesses closing down, not being able to pay their staff. This is a 100-year legacy business that now doesn't exist because somebody clicked on a link that they shouldn't, or your child has fallen for one of these scams and they think it's a really beautiful girl asking them to, give naked pictures. The term is sextortion. So it's extortion with a sexual element. To commit suicide over that sort of situation, as an adult, you think, oh my word, you'll get over it, it'll be fine. But if you're a 12-year-old boy, it's like the end of your world, and it doesn't have to be that. So rather have cover, be insured, hand over that responsibility of this horrible situation to somebody else so that you don't have to deal with it. And that's why we thank you so much, Garth, for everything that you do for South Africa, for the community, on a job that I'm sure is very difficult to deal with, in some situations. It must be quite frightening, the things that you have to see on a daily basis. So a big thank you, not only for presenting with us, but for the work that you do. And we really appreciate it, because we would not be where we are without companies like you.
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure working with you guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you to the audience.
Yes, guys. And thanks a lot. And again, just to reiterate what Candice has said, thanks, Garth, for your time, for your efforts, and just, embracing and engaging on such a critical topic. Thank you all for the questions. We haven't gotten through every single question, but if there's anything burning, please drop us a mail. Our details are available via our website. So if you are looking for some insight around the products that we offer as iTOO, please just drop us a mail and we'll be in touch with you from there.
Yes.
But yeah, that wraps up today's iTOOsday. Giving you 1 minute back in your diary to prepare for the next one.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone. We reached, I think, over 740 odd people on the call. So fantastic turnout. We appreciate all of you, and we'll see you next week where we'll be talking with the FIA and all things small business. So please do join us next week at the same time, same place. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Everyone.
Be safe.